Hey everybody, my name is Ben Hunt,
My name's Phil Escott.
and we're here to talk to you today about the Big Fat Challenge, why it's needed, and what we're trying to achieve with all of this. So the place to start really is just to look around you at the world today and notice that the the West, the so-called developed world, but also the rest of the world is catching up very, very fast as well. We are suffering a chronic, critical epidemic of disease. If you go into any store, you'll see that most of the people around you now are overweight, if not severely overweight. We're looking at now getting onto a 50% obesity in the United States and in many other countries. So obesity is you're carrying so much body fat, it's actually a clinical risk to your health. And that's leaving aside things like heart disease, type 2 diabetes, cancer. We're now being told that about half of us, certainly half of everyone born since 1960, should expect to get cancer in our lifetimes. And all of this is being completely normalized. And one thing that we're here to tell you today is this is not normal. We are not meant to be that fat. We're not meant to be sick. We are not meant to expect to be popping pills into our old age. And half of us absolutely should not be getting cancer. We know for a fact that these diseases and obesity as well, because they really all come back to the same thing. They really all have their root in the very same problem. And the good news is that they are all absolutely preventable as well.
Yeah, and before you tell them, about that, I'd just like to say at this point, what if we told you that everything you've been told is complete nonsense about how to avoid or reverse any of this? And our job in the Big Fat Challenge is to show you the ancestral disconnects, the way that we become disconnected from our ancestral heritage, from our natural human diet and other areas that keep you fat, sick, miserable, and depressed. Mental illness is part of this as well, and we see this lifted so many times. So what we're showing you is actually very, very simple, but we've forgotten who we are as a species. And we overcomplicate things. And the main job that we've got here is deprogrammers, isn't it? We want to deprogram people and show them exactly why they don't need to Google all over the place with all these different diet gurus, and show a simple formula of finding out what works and what doesn't work. It's very simple. There's the ancestral formula. It's not infallible, but it's kind of 95% effective. And, what they tell you in the mainstream and in the vegetarian and vegan dogma as well, what they tell you about that, and the 5 a day and all of this, even the foods they say are healthy nowadays, we're going to show you how that's perhaps a big mistake.
Yeah, the food really is the key. If you look at what we actually need, we need to get sufficient nutrition, which means that we need the protein and the minerals and everything else in our diet. And we also need the proper kind of fuel, and we're gonna talk about that. The common sense plays a huge role in this today. It seems as though we've kind of forgotten how to use common sense, and that we're told that we must listen to men in white coats, we must listen to government officials telling us how to be healthy, but we've never been less healthy. Now, if you look out in the world, you look at any other living thing in creation, there's no other animal out there that suffers from this ridiculous cancer rate and then gets heart disease and all these other conditions. It all comes down to our food. And the most basic reason is that we are no longer eating what nature designed us to eat. The human race is maybe hundreds of thousands of years old. And for the vast majority of that time, until about roughly 10,000 years ago, we ate our natural species appropriate diet. There's no other animal out there that worries about what to eat. There's no other animal out there that has to follow a diet, right? They just go out into the world, they eat what tastes good, what they know is right for them, and they crack on and enjoy their lives. And that's exactly what we should be doing as well.
Yeah,
So
and just that wonderful phrase, ancient foods do not cause modern diseases.
yeah,
I think that just nails it, because we're told that meat and saturated fat are horrendously dangerous. And yet, as a friend of mine says, who is also a full carnivore, isn't it funny how all the ailments that are supposed to be caused by meat and saturated fat clear up when all you eat is meat and saturated fat? And these all these foods that we're told to eat now, 5 a day, all this green veg, all this kind of thing. On the challenge, you'll find out just exactly how toxic these things are and how they didn't really exist more than about 100 or 200 years ago. And so, how come suddenly they are essential to our diet? And yet, all of the things that we have eaten for millennia, as you can see through bone isotope records, you can see what humans ate. How come that's suddenly causing all these problems? Are we maybe in the midst of a bit of a scam where somebody's trying to make a whole load of money out of us, with pharmaceuticals and fake food? I think that's probably what's going on.
it is one massive con, guys. That's what we're here to tell you today. And it started really when the last ice age finished, which is about 12,000 years ago, and the world warmed up and the megafauna disappeared, all the mammoths and stuff that we used to hunt. We know we used to hunt those things because we took time to paint pictures on cave walls to say what we were doing, right? There's no pictures of broccoli or quinoa on there. And we may have scavenged the odd grass seeds to supplement our diet when times were hard, but 90%, we know this, like Phil said, from the bone isotope records. They can measure the different nitrogen isotopes. They know what humans ate from the bones that we left behind. And what we ate was large herbivores and even sometimes other carnivores as well. We were super, super efficient hunters. And that is how humans are designed. We have the physiology of carnivores, absolutely. And then, so what happened? Well, the world warmed up. We were unable to hunt the big herds of large herbivores that we used to do. And so we started to domesticate certain plants and fruits so that we could feed ourselves. Okay. And we know also from fossils, you get an anthropologist, a paleoanthropologist, they look at, if you show them a skeleton from a hunter-gatherer and a skeleton from a post-agricultural revolution farmer, they will be able to say, that's the hunter-gatherer, that's the farmer. Why? Well, one reason is that we lost about 10% of our stature. We got shorter at the end of the Ice Age. We lost about 10% of our brain size. Our skulls got narrower. We basically degenerated and became more feeble. I mean, there's also lots of examples left in the bones and the joints of chronic diseases starting to appear as well. Okay, so that's bad enough, but it's nothing compared to what happened about 150 years ago in the 19th century when we started to apply the wonderful efficiency of the Industrial Revolution to our food supply. Now, we tell you a lot, and we also provide, as part of this challenge, you can get early access to the Red Pill Food Revolution book, which we've written over the last 2 years. And in my experience, was totally mind-blowing. Okay. And this goes into a lot more detail about all of this. So we're not going to labor the point and take up a lot of your time today to go over those things, but
I've got to interrupt Ben here and say that the book was put together from Zoom calls with Ben, with Graham Norbury, with Jeremy Ayres, with me, and we were basically consultants. Ben put the most amazing words together. Honestly, the book is a masterpiece, and I can say that because I was just a consultant. But it is beautifully written. The end of each chapter is tremendous, and you can't help but go on to the next chapter. But I think, I got to big up Ben and say it's probably one of the most comprehensive, if not the most comprehensive books ever written on this subject. And it is perfect for deprogramming people and showing you exactly how everything has gone wrong and everything is upside down. There was one of my favorite quotes ever was from Ram Tzu, and he said, "Bring me your dearest held beliefs, and with any luck, you'll leave without them." And I love that, because this is what we need to do. We need to completely reprogram people about what's going on with food. Otherwise, there's not going to be anything left for anybody. The soil's being destroyed by the monocrops. They're blaming animals for cancer and climate change. You know, everything is going wrong. They're killing chickens. They're trying to take that out of the food supply. And whether it's just money and a tremendous load of delusion, or whether it's something even more nefarious, which we won't get into here, whatever it is, it's going on. And we need to really fight back now. And anybody watching this who isn't really sure about which diet guru is right and whatever, I mean, you know, you can listen to anybody. Anybody can write a book about how polar bears eat daffodils. It doesn't make him right. Polar bears eat seals and they eat fish, and that's how they're healthy. And we need to present to you exactly what humans eat. And on this challenge, we've had such wonderful, I mean, just check out the page, you know, you can see all these wonderful testimonials, got more and more. And we would like to spell out how you can get back to that ancestral way of living. Now, that doesn't mean you have to go live in a cave. There's very easy ways to do it. Once you understand it, you can still have all your home comforts, but also make your body believe that it is actually a human and not some kind of a caged animal. Mm. And when you do this, and when you take away the stresses, the body rebalances to its natural body weight, the body sheds diseases, it detoxes all the crap that you've had from the plants that you were told was healthy. You know, all the stuff that you'll learn on the challenge about plant toxins, about the benefits of fat, how the body runs on fat, how you don't need fiber, you know, as for good digestion. I've been carnivore 8 years. I haven't had any fiber. I'm absolutely fine. You know, I have no digestive issues. And, you know, all of these things can be blown up from our sort of wide experience of this. Ben, tell them how you came to this. What's your history? Why are we both qualified to run this challenge and tell people all about this stuff?
Well, we're not doctors or registered dietitians, so that's two things in our credit.
That's a plus.
So yeah, I mean, I came I mean, I spent my whole life. I came from a background in marketing and consulting, but I've always been fascinated with the question of how are we supposed to live? How are human beings supposed to dwell on this planet and be happy and fulfilled? So that's had me chasing down all kinds of rabbit holes over the years, and I got really, really into about 5 years ago. I was massively into the idea of drawing down carbon out of the air, how we can rebuild soil, and how we can feed ourselves in a completely sustainable way. So I was mad into, I designed my own greenhouse, I built it, I was growing my own food, always kept my own chickens and ducks and stuff like that. And I started going to a bunch of conferences and seminars about regenerative agriculture and how we can feed ourselves without destroying the earth. And as part of that, this stuff kept coming up. That people were talking about the importance of ruminant animals for the soil, which was a bit of a surprise for me. But it turns out that a lot of the animals that we have today co-evolved with the grasses over the last approximately 65 million years, and that they actually provide a crucial role in the ecosystem for helping to build soil. So that's one thing. And another thing that people started talking about was these things like DHA and EPA and CLA, and these essential fats that you could only really get from meat and from animal fat. And that got me really curious, because one of the most important skills I think that we can have today is curiosity and the willingness to challenge your own beliefs. And I'll tell you, it challenged my beliefs. So I started looking around at people eating more meat, and could actually more meat be healthy? Because like you, I've been told my whole life, oh, we should reduce the amount of meat. What's the World Economic Forum telling us now? But in 2030, you will eat much less meat for your health and for the planet. Okay. Now, we challenge all of that in the book, and you get the book in audiobook format, and you can get it in documents as well, so you can read it however you choose. But yeah, the bottom line is that we have stopped eating what humans have always eaten, right? Rabbits have always eaten grass. Orcas have always eaten seals. Lions have always eaten warm-blooded herbivores, right? Human beings, our species, have always eaten large animals. And we've got our nutrients that way, we've got our energy that way, and we were always pretty darn healthy until we switched what we were doing. We switched from predominantly animals to predominantly plants, and we are now suffering the consequences. So, I mean, Phil, you can talk to the effects of basing your diet on plants because you've got more experience of that than I have.
Yeah, well, I've always been, I'm 60 now. I was 20, I guess, 18, 20, when I started to get interested in diet and lifestyle and spirituality and all of this sort of thing. And, you know, I started off by taking a load of magic mushrooms and going macrobiotic as well. So that was my first delve into so-called spirituality, and both got me into trouble. And then over the years, you know, I got more into the sort of yoga side of it and meditation, and then moved up to where I live now, which was a sort of transcendental meditation center. And I pretty much gave up my career as a musician back when I was like 24. I thought, right, I've retired now. It actually blossomed since then, which is great, you know, which was unintended, but it's lovely. And I play to this day. But I became very interested in vegetarianism through the whole spiritual side, which is a whole other things that we talk about in the challenge, because it's another big way that we've been conned. You know, a lot of spirituality actually keeps us from the goals of spirituality in a very subtle way. And it's another way of control. And they've also controlled through food. I mean, when you look at so many spiritual disciplines, they are promoting vegetarianism, veganism, that kind of thing. And you know, it's a disaster. This was how I got conned into it. I thought, right, I've gone veggie, and I started to study Ayurvedic medicine. And I thought, right, I'm way ahead of the curve here. You know, I'm way ahead. I always realized that the mainstream was nonsense, but I didn't quite know why back then. And so, you know, for 30 odd years, I was pretty much vegetarian, and I wrote a couple of books on it, wrote a load of articles on it, and sort of I thought it was the way to go. Brought my first kid up that way, disastrous consequences for him, and eventually disastrous consequences for me. I didn't listen to all the whispers, you know, through the 90s of joints sort of hurting now and again. And I was running a gym and used to have to take weeks off training because I was, you know, my back had gone or some sacroiliac was messing up and sending sciatic pain down my leg. And, you know, lots of things were going on. My wrist started messing me about. And so I couldn't play drums. I didn't put two and two together. I didn't realize, you know, we just think, well, this is age. This is just normal. This is not my diet. This is, you know, everyone has something like this, that sort of nonsense. But in 2010, I was really struck down with proper crippling psoriatic arthritis. And I had to, at first I went completely vegan, you know, from vegetarian, and ended up sort of emaciated, lost all my muscle mass, and ended up with kidney stones from the oxalates and all the juiced spinach, you know, because, I mean, is there anything more healthy than green juicing? Yeah, well, how quickly can you put that to bed? Because how many of our ancestors juiced spinach? Zero. Right. So, you know, it's another way of telling how you
and by the way, something else that we know categorically from science, if you survey all remaining hunter-gatherer tribes in the world today, there isn't one of them that's vegetarian.
No,
the majority get the majority of their nutrition still from the animal kingdom, not from the plant kingdom.
Yeah, no multi-generational cultures, a few little weird subcultures, usually based on some kind of religion or spirituality. It's all a complete con. But anyway, you know, after a couple of years of messing about, or probably a year of veganism, and then I discovered I discovered that perhaps we should be eating meat. And I didn't quite work out how toxic the veg were, but I did stop all the breads and seed oils, that kind of thing. And eventually, you know, I came into a ketogenic diet of very high fat meat and coconut oil, a few sort of low carb veg, but I was still taking in plant toxins. But I did pretty much with that and all sorts of other ancestral disconnects, pretty much fix what was going on, and wrote my book, which is called Arthritis, the Best Thing That Ever Happened to Me, which still sells nicely on Amazon. And I think probably because of the title, people get outraged when they're sick and they think, who's this idiot saying that, you know? But it was, because it taught me everything I know. I was wrong for 30 years. And so then discovered the carnivore diet. I just felt, I slipped into it by accident, really, because I felt better on the days where I wasn't having my healthy veg. And
So carnivore diet, you're talking about eliminating everything from the plant kingdom and mushrooms and all of that, and getting all of your nutrition just from meat and fat and dairy and eggs.
Yeah, well, how crazy is that? That's going to kill you immediately, right? But, strangely, as sick as I was going into it, that is what really fixed me. But, there are different levels to this. And this is not like Ben said, we have always survived on ruminant animals, but, well, thrived on them. But now, is it necessary for, are you scared off with this video now, thinking you'd end up a full carnivore? Well, no, we can take you down the paths of becoming very healthy while not being a full carnivore. I mean, my speciality is autoimmune conditions, and I've been, my YouTube channel and my Facebook groups and personal consults. I've seen hundreds of personally of cases and thousands on my social media of people who have been helped dramatically with this sort of approach. And it is a proper elimination diet, going back to the actual ruminant animal meat and nothing else, which is how I prefer to eat still. But does that mean you have to do it? Not necessarily. But there are all subtleties to this that we will be showing you in the Big Fat Challenge and on calls or whatever, if you get on them. And it's really, the simple thing is about rebalancing things so that you're running on fats and not on this enormous amount of carbohydrates, and the fats that you do take in being the really poisonous seed oils. For example, I mean, we've said how bad they are, we've touched on it, but they were invented, these things that are supposed to be heart healthy according to the World Health Organization, were invented as machine lubricants and soap making additives. And so suddenly we've got to take these to help our hearts. Would it be outrageous to consider that perhaps they've caused the epidemic of heart disease and cancer? Terrible things. But we'll show you all sorts of ways around that these things are dodgy, and how you've been lied to on every level. So that's pretty much about the challenge, and the other areas we'll take you into, including even down to the emotional stuff, the light, the EMFs, the magnetism, that's affecting your body, the toxins that you might find in your environment, and all these subtle things. Plus, we can take you through a really holistic view of this, so you can see how there's kind of a wheel of health. And there's many spokes to that wheel, the food, the magnetism, the emotions, the relationships, the whatever. And we can take you through all of this on the Big Fat Challenge. And of course, like Ben said, you get the book for free, and you can check that out. So what else we got going on the channel? Why should people actually join up to this?
Well, I mean, you don't have to join the challenge. Let's put it that way. The simple facts are, if you nourish and fuel your body in the way that humans have always nourished and fueled your bodies, i.e., don't consume anything that was invented in the last 150 years. These are novel foodstuffs, and the evidence is absolutely clear as day that the sudden catastrophic arrival of all this chronic disease and obesity on the world as it is now completely coincides with the invention of brand new foods. And then we are being told to eat these brand new foods. We're being told that, because humans didn't consume grains in any kind of amount until about 10,000 years ago, or even more recently. We've only had agriculture in the UK for about 2,000 years, right? So we didn't evolve on grains. We know that for sure. The idea, give us this day our daily bread, is a relatively modern concept, right? But that then again pales away. We had the arrival of sugar just a few hundred years ago. And like Phil said, the seed oils, they call them vegetable oils because everyone knows that vegetables are healthy, right? There's a lot of stuff that everyone knows that's complete rot. It's utter nonsense, and it's going to destroy your health, right? So be prepared to relearn a lot of this stuff. So why do you not need to do the challenge? Well, go back to what humans have always eaten: the meat and the fat of large animals, fish, some fungi, berries in season, right? If it's local and it's seasonal, if you know that a Paleolithic ancestor would recognize it and go, oh yeah, I'll have a bit of that, then fine, you're probably okay. But there are also other levels to this, which is that if you have been already severely damaged by a high proportion of plant foods in your diet, then that can really wreak havoc on your gut, causing autoimmune issues and stuff like that. So we can also help guide you through all of that stuff. So if you cut out the seed oils, cut out the refined sugar, in fact, all sugars if you can, certainly cut out the grains, the wheat, the refined flour, all of that, and even if go the whole hog and remove everything from the plant kingdom entirely, then you will find that you can really get a handle on your own health and your body shape as well. That you will naturally return to the amount of body fat and the musculature and everything that you are supposed to have. Because I mean, since we started doing the challenge together, Phil, which was about 8 weeks ago, I've lost a bit of weight. Phil, you've put weight on over that same amount of time, even though we've been eating the same stuff.
Yeah. I needed to, because again, we all mess up. We're all human. I messed up last year and got sick again and lost a load of weight. But you see, the thing is, if you have this knowledge, you can put it right, and you can put it right pretty quickly. I fixed it in about a couple of months, to the point where it took me about 3 years before. But I think that the point of going on to this challenge and joining us and understanding more about it, we've seen so many wonderful testimonials of what we've done for people and putting them together. I mean, the people who've been on the calls with us, they're getting to know each other so well. The support is fantastic. We learn a lot. You're always learning. There's nowhere. The more you learn, the more you realize you don't know about this stuff. And I mean, I've been at this for 40 years, and every day I realize that there's more and more that I don't know. But what to do is actually fairly simple. And
the most basic thing is reintroduce the animal fats into your diet.
Yeah.
We've been told since the 1950s that animal fats are associated with saturated fat, which isn't exactly true anyway, but the animal fats clog your arteries, and the animal fats and meat can contribute to heart disease. Okay, the evidence for that amounts to precisely zip. It was nonsense. It was nonsense when Ansel Keys came up with the idea in the 1950s to try and become famous. And the idea has hung around since then. And the reason it's hung around since then is not because there's any science to back it up. There isn't. The reason it's hung around since then is because big agriculture makes so much money from selling us cheap row crops. So we're talking about wheat, corn, soy, sugar, and the so-called vegetable oils, which are nothing to do with vegetables. They come from seeds. Like Phil said, they're industrial byproducts, right? Those 5 things, they take those incredibly cheap things, which also ruin the soil. They send them to factories. They reconstitute them into Oreos and Pringles and all kinds of unspeakable things. And then they tell us this stuff is fine to eat. It isn't. You cut that stuff out and you get your health back. We can't promise how long it will take to get your health back, because it depends how long you've been damaging your health from all of this. But it will happen.
We focus on mitochondrial health here. If you take care of the pennies, the pounds will take care of themselves. And so if you focus on mitochondrial health, then you'll never be going hungry. You'll be eating really nutritious food whenever you want to. You don't go hungry. This is not Weight Watchers or Slimming World.
It's not a diet.
Yeah, the Weight Watchers and Slimming World, if you're sort of casting about and you come across this video and you were thinking of going there, please don't. It's all run on willpower. You'll be losing just as much muscle mass and bone density as you will fat. They don't understand this. And then it's set up for repeat business. And then each time that your willpower breaks down and you put the weight back on that you lost before, it's going to be more difficult to lose it the next time. And your metabolism is progressively going to get more and more broken. This way, eating like a human's supposed to eat, which is not like Slimming World or Weight Watchers say, you're going to balance out at your ideal weight. And we want to really help the most people with this. We are at war, there's a war on meat. They're trying to take it away from us. And unless people wake up as quickly as possible, we're going to be in serious trouble, because nobody's going to have anything to eat, even that row crop junk, because we've ruined all the soil. So no one's going to be eating anything. So we need to wake up to this. People need to throw out their preconceptions, come and join the challenge, have some fun with us. And we want to make this available to the most people. So we've got a system where you can pay what you think. Now, people have said to us, why are you pricing it like this? People have said, this is worth thousands, this information. Well, yes, it probably is, but we don't see it like that. We want the most amount of people to do it. So there's a top bracket, it's like, whatever we've set it at the moment. And there are options below. And be honest, it's like an honesty box. Pay what you think you can pay. And we're fine with that. We'd rather have 100 people extra sign up who think they can't afford it when they realize that they can pay what they want, because we can be helping them and they can be paying it on, and they can be educating their children as well to stop us getting in this mess ever again and wrecking the soil and destroying our health. So that was a rant.
Yeah, so going back to the fact, and we completely appreciate this goes totally against everything you've been told for your entire life on what's healthy to eat. But as you will see, and if you scroll down the page, you will see that the rise in obesity took a sudden jump upwards around the year 1980 in the United States, when they introduced the National Healthy Eating Guidelines. And if you ask yourself, where did these guidelines come from? Who is telling us what we should be eating in order to be healthy? Well, it comes from the government initially, right? But the reality is that all of these have come from committees that are sponsored by Nabisco and Nestle and General Mills and all of this stuff. It's all corporate. This information is corporate sponsored. The corporations are running the government advice. The corporations are running the government departments, like the Department of Agriculture and whatever. And that's where your advice is coming from. Okay. Now, you carry on listening to that advice. If you dutifully consume what you are being told is healthy to consume, you'll be, for one thing, you'll be getting more calories from sugar than you will from meat. Okay. But we will, on the challenge, we will dispel all of those myths. And the book goes into a huge amount of detail that it really, really will put your mind at rest. The evidence for fat being bad for you is completely wrong. The evidence for fat being your natural fuel for your body is all there. It's absolutely common sense. You don't need a doctorate in any kind of science to understand it. So all of that's just information, right? You've been saturated with information for your entire life. Okay. So what we're not here to say is we're not telling you to believe us. We don't want you to believe us. The reason why we all got into this mess is because we've gone out and we've trusted and believed what other people have told us to believe. No, what we're saying to you is find out for yourself. Okay. Now, if you've got a huge amount of willpower, then take this information, go off, do your own research, cut out the carbs and the wheat and the flour and the sugar and the seed oils in particular, right? Find out for yourself. That's brilliant. Nothing will make us happier. If you would like more support to do it, then that's what the Big Fat Challenge is here to do, right? And what's more, so not only have we made it a pay what you can system, and we would encourage you, if to pay what you can, because that way you'll be the most invested in the challenge. But there's also a 30-day money-back guarantee. So if it doesn't meet your expectations, then you've risked absolutely nothing, right? It's 90 days of your life. And the reason it's 90 days is because there is an adaptation period, right? We are hooked. We are literally addicted to sugar and carbohydrates. And also in addition, that our bodies have stored a lot of toxins over the years, the majority of which have come from plants. And we're not just talking about modern stuff like glyphosate, but 99% of plants on Earth are not edible to humans, and many of them are downright toxic. And because plants can't run away like animals can, or hide or fight, they've had to come up with their own biological defenses, which are anti-nutrients and toxins. Okay. Now, because we're not supposed to eat plants, that animals evolved to be able to deal with the plants that they eat, and they know the plants that they eat, and they know how to strip the anti-nutrients and the toxins from them. And then we go along. This is our place in the natural world. We go along and we eat the flesh and the fat of those animals, and we don't have to deal with those toxins, right? When you eat a load of plants, like Phil was talking about, spinach smoothies, then you get all kinds of horrid things like oxalates. Phil, what was the thing? Is it Brussels sprouts contain
Yes,
136 known carcinogens or something?
yeah, it's a great way to bring it home to people when they think that vegetables are healthy and they've given up all the breads and all the seed oils and so, but they still eat healthy veg. Well, yes, there's a wonderful video by Dr. Anthony Chaffee, whose show I've been on. He's been on my podcast too, and he's doing some great work. But it's just called "Plants Are Trying to Kill You," and it's on YouTube. Check it out. 136, I believe, known carcinogens in an organic Brussels sprout. It just shows another con of the organic thing, because a non-organic Brussels sprout has 137 because it's got some glyphosate sprayed on as well. Looking at it that way, you might as well just eat the glyphosate and forget about the Brussels sprout. I think the least toxic veg has got about 60 known carcinogens. And some of these, are pretty nasty, the oxalates we mentioned. But anyway, we could go on for hours about that. But on the challenge, we'll be explaining a lot about that. On the calls, we explain about it. And should we explain about the difference here, Ben, between the challenge and the tribe?
Yeah. So how does the challenge work? Well, it's like we say, it's a 90-day program. It's spread over 12 weeks. So we've got a series of 12 mini challenges to cut out one thing, cut out the second thing, cut out the third thing. You can, if you wish, jump straight in at the deep end and go full Monty and take it all on in one go, or you can work through it week by week. We've got a large amount of material that Phil and I have recorded to help guide you through it, to make it simpler, to save you literally the decades that we've spent having to research all of this stuff. And we also link out to some very useful resources as well. And that's the challenge. And you do that at your own pace. And we are not saying that you have to go follow the full carnivore diet or the lion diet or PKD or any of these particular variations. What we're saying is, at the very least, get rid of the oils that come from the plants and reintroduce the animal fat. And that will make a big difference to a lot of people, but not everybody. And then alongside the Big Fat Challenge, we've got the Big Fat Tribe, which is our community. And we meet several times a week, different times of day, so that wherever you are in the world, you can get on calls. And that's an opportunity for people to bring their own particular circumstances. We can help coach you through the adaptation phase. Like we say, we can help coach you through the emotional side. We've also got a load of resources on EFT, emotional freedom technique. We've got stuff about exercise, how to exercise. And we've also got, as part of the challenge, the Q&A library as well. So the most popular questions, the most common questions that everyone comes up with, we will answer those. We want to give you everything that you need, all the help that you need to make the transition back to animal fats and back to full health.
And how many people have said, that, oh, well, I thought I knew it. It's just simple. Just eat meat and fat and it's fine. But there's all sorts of little things, little pitfalls, little weirdnesses that can happen in the first month, even up to the first 90 days or so. But we have so much experience of guiding people through these stages. How many people have said, oh, I'd have dropped out if it hadn't been for the support on the calls? And it's lovely hearing the testimonials. Scroll down the page and have a look. Some of these testimonials, and they keep on coming in. This is just from the first little while we've been running this. And I think the support is fantastic. That's what's so good. People, people have their own experience. It's all very well us telling them, but if somebody asks a question and then 2 or 3 other people on the call can say, yeah, they're right. Yes, this is what happened to me. And that's how I got over it. And I'm okay now. And I'm, all manner of little things. It just gives you so much more confidence. And I think it's just a real fast track to getting to where you want to go. I just wish, when I was really sick back in 2010, I wish there had been something like this. It would have saved me so much time. Wait, to be honest, actually, I wouldn't be doing this. I can't say that. No regrets. Because I wouldn't be doing this now. I wouldn't have taken every wrong turn in the book to be able to show people what the wrong turns are. But yes, I would have got better a hell of a lot quicker if there had been something like this. because you know you have a little problem and then you lose faith in it and then you turn back and then you think you were on the wrong path and then you know on and on it goes, and you start listening to some other weird diet guru who says you've got to eat more parsnips or have celery juice or, you know, stand on your head while you're, I don't know, whatever. But you know, we can take you through all that nonsense and blow it up for you if you don't really want to spend years on this and want to get well. But let's not say better, let's say well, you know, and hopefully get to optimal at some point. Are we ever completely done with our healing journey? Probably not. But this is a great way to accelerate it.
Absolutely. And guys, we're just here to offer the support that you need. If the 90-day challenge works for you, that's absolutely fantastic. If you want to take what we've told you today, what you can read on this page as a starting point, go off and research more. There's a huge number of scientists and doctors out there who have woken up to the con and who are out there trying to tell the truth. But the problem is that the mainstream is never going to tell you the actual facts. They were just going to keep repeating parrot fashion the same lies that have been going on for all this time, which are really just there to prop up the sugar and the seed oil industries, and your health just doesn't feature in their thinking. The corporation cannot take your health into account. The only person that can do this is you. You have to do two things. You've got to retrain your thinking, and then you've got to retrain your habits. And we are just offering ourselves. We are here to help you, whatever help you need. So take the dive, join the challenge, give us 90 days of your time. You will not regret it. If you do, just claim your money back and it's absolutely fine. But otherwise, good luck and we'll see you on the inside.
See you then.